What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Social Standard Podcast. Today we have the CEO and co-founder of Trendpop, Yoav Zimmerman. Yoav, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you.
Hello, it's great to be here. I'm really excited to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we want to focus on today is just a little bit of a deep dive into what's happening on TikTok. So Yoav, I'll let you do your company justice and explain all of it. But just for our listeners out there, we're going to talk a lot about trends that are happening on TikTok, what's gone on this year, what we expect for next year, and any sort of unique insights that Yoav is able to bring to the table. So without further ado, Yoav, tell us a little bit about Trendpop. How'd you start it? Why did you start it? What are your plans for the next couple of years?
Absolutely. So Trendpop, what we do here is we build software to help anybody grow their audiences on social media platforms. And historically, we've been very, very focused on TikTok, short form vertical video platforms, starting on TikTok now, starting to get into Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts.
Yep.
As we all know, TikTok's US net ad revenues, they rose 180% in the last year. Actually,
this
year.
Wild? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So there are like nearly 6 billion. The growth isn't slowing down. It's clearly, going to be kind of the new frontier of advertising. So as that kind of trend continues to happen, it's every day more and more important for marketers who want to be a part of that growth to understand and be able to create virality on these platforms.
Sure.
So that is what our tool helps us do, helps all of our customers do. We help you understand, number one, what is going viral on the platform, just factually, what are the top trends? What are the top trends in your category? What are the top creators? What are the top hashtags? Just basic facts about the platform that are synthesized for you. So
Which I think, by the way, is really important because the algorithm on TikTok is so smart. What I see versus what you see and anybody else is so vastly different. You need a tool that shows you what's happening at a grander, larger scale.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really, really key insight we had early on. Very early on when we were doing product research in this area, before we even knew of what we were going to build, we talked to a bunch of marketers in this space. Actually, we started a lot in the area of music because TikTok hit the music industry way before any other industry. As you know, it's a very sound-based platform. And right away, the music industry was kind of one of the first to kind of realize its potential on their business. And that's why they are the most advanced vertical in that platform right now. So anyways, we started there and we were noticing that pretty much all of the serious record labels, they were hiring like teams of interns basically to just browse the For You page. And they were doing weird tricks like, oh yeah, let's do one phone where you try to get it to wholesome memes. And let's do one phone where you try to get the FYP to hip hop genre. And we said, you know what, we could just build software that makes these kind of processes obsolete. We could get you directly to the content and the trends that you're interested in through automated and large scale data collection. So that's kind of one of the first pieces that we built.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, and I mean, if you remember, it's like TikTok wasn't TikTok in the US, it was Musical.ly for a while, right? So
yeah,
music and audio has seen such a bump and a really strong resurgence in the last few years. It's been really interesting, and I think it's smart of you guys to build a tool like that. I mean, everybody needs something. TikTok is a very hard platform to understand at a grand scale, whereas I think Instagram is a little bit easier. So good for you guys doing that. I know that we use it with one of our largest clients, Adobe. So we use it. We love the tool. It's a smart play. So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more about what you actually see. And I know you mentioned a little bit Instagram Reels you're starting to get into. I'm sure YouTube Shorts has got to be on the horizon then there as well. I mean, what do you guys well, I guess my first question is where are you going to rest your laurels? Which platform do you think wins out? Is it going to be YouTube? Is it going to be TikTok? Is it going to be Instagram?
Oh, I love this question. Yeah, I mean, my answer honestly changes not day to day, but month to month.
Yeah.
I mean, TikTok is a clear winner, right? If we're just talking about the current, like it's
Sure.
not, there's not even a question, all of the engagements on TikTok, the growth's still on TikTok. I don't think they've slowed down in any way, but clearly, some of these bigger platforms are starting to catch up. So YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels are definitely the tier 2 players. I don't think there's been a few, over the past few years. Triller, I think Snap has
Oh,
experimented in this space, but
yeah.
yeah, like there's clearly a second tier.
Exactly.
Out of those two, who's growing the fastest? I think it's a pretty even race, honestly. I think both of them have a really good shot. With Instagram, you have they have that, starting line advantage of already being, visual social network of Instagram. Obviously, Instagram, massive.
Sure.
But, on the other hand, YouTube has the starting advantage of being the arguably larger entertainment platform.
Mm-hmm.
So more desktop users, more people using it on TV, and kind of long form medium. So both of those are like areas that TikTok is wanting to expand to even more. So, it's a toss up basically.
It is. I agree with you. I think 100%. Who knows, right? Because even if you go back 3-6 months, things were definitely different. I mean, YouTube, I think, is making big strides. They might be sort of the Trojan horse here, in my opinion. But as you think about, what you mentioned, which I think is really smart, is where the platforms are at. But for us, being an influencer marketing agency, like we look at where the creators are, right? And I think that that's one of the reasons why Instagram Stories was able to squash Snapchat a little bit, right? Same thing arguably could happen with YouTube and Instagram squashing TikTok just because people have follower accounts. I think the reality is TikTok got way ahead of them on that. And so that's less of an advantage. But do you think that it's going to lie in the technology and the platforms in their advantages? Or do you think it's going to lie in where the creators decide to spend their time?
I mean, that's a very good point you bring up. And I 100% agree with you. It's where the creators start to spend their time. Because all of these platforms have, incredible innovations, incredible engineers, incredible designers, marketers, salespeople. They could all build the thing if it's clear what
Sure.
the thing is to build, as that changes over time. But the thing that you cannot just start out of scratch, or the thing that's not necessarily fully a technology problem, is this like the network, right?
Yep.
And that is the hardest thing to bootstrap across many different technology companies, but especially in the space where there's such fierce competition for creators. And yeah, I think absolutely in the past few weeks, I've seen YouTube Shorts also become a major contender, especially when with the news of them turning on monetization for Shorts.
Exactly.
I think is absolutely massive. YouTube has the ad model. That's the cool thing about YouTube.
And that I think is, that's why I think they're just so hard to compete with on any front.
Yeah.
I mean, if they do it correctly, right? That's the big, yeah. And sorry to interrupt there. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. No problem. Yeah, I mean, any serious creator that is monetizing strictly from their content, not talking like brand deals, but like just purely views, YouTube is where they make the money. It's not even a question. There's the TikTok Creator Fund. Instagram has done a little bit here and there, but those platforms pale in comparison because the creator gets to experience the upside of the ad revenue on YouTube. And if they turn that on for Shorts as well, then I think we will see a lot of creators flocking to try to get a piece of that pie.
Who wouldn't,
yeah.
right? You'd be crazy not to. But there again, it's hard to move your audience from one platform to another, which I think we've seen time and time again. So it'll be interesting to see if people are able to do it successfully, or if is it going to be new YouTube creators, right? I will call them new YouTube Shorts creators that come up. Or is it going to be the people who are historically, big YouTube creators that just already have that presence and are able to kind of use it as, honestly, as an advertising model for their main channel, right?
Yeah.
Because if you like this content, come here. Now it's a totally different skill set, right? To go long form versus short form. But the way that a lot of YouTube creators run their businesses is that they have a lot of different people helping them do a lot of different things. So you could bring in somebody to help you flesh out your short form video strategy, which I think most people are already doing vis-a-vis TikTok. That would be pretty easy to slide over for YouTube. But I think, I was listening to some things, and you've probably heard this too, but Mr. Beast talking a lot about, YouTube Shorts and where he thinks he thinks that they're going to be the platform to kind of win all. And his method, his reasoning makes a lot of sense to me. It's essentially what we just talked about, right? It's the monetization angle, which is huge and forever the king is money, right? But you also have just the fact that you could turn yourself, you could go from YouTube Shorts creator to a long form creator pretty easily, right?
Yeah.
And I say pretty easily, knowing that it's really, in reality, it's not that easy, but it makes it easier, I should say. To try to figure that out. It's almost like what a lot of folks do who are podcast influencers or have big audiences, and they take video clips, like you and I could take a video clip of something really, spicy that we say and throw it on Instagram as a reel. And that then drives the audience back to us. So I think that's a huge, huge play for shorts when it comes to longstanding YouTube creators, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's one, thing we commonly hear from our users who are creators, professional creators. Earlier this year, early 2022, we were acquired by Collab, which is primarily started as a creator, like a digital creator talent network. Yep. And a lot of their clients make a bulk of their revenue from YouTube long form. But also they were big in the Vine days. So they've been in short form for a long time. And the interplay between like long form and short form is a really interesting space to examine. I've seen many very successful kind of tech plays on just solving that problem. I mean, just taking like Twitch live content, just YouTube content, and just repackaging and syndicating that to other platforms. That's an incredibly valuable service for creators. As we kind of start merging more of these mediums, I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting developments in that space.
Yes, I agree. And does Jelly Smack do that?
Yes. Jelly Smack does a lot of that. In addition to many more services. Sure. I mean, the general problem is, how do you kind of take the audience from one platform and move it to other platforms? And one of those problems, you might have to change your content, but also sometimes you have to develop new types of content. Twitter users are probably not as interested in the same things as like Instagram users. I'm a big Twitter user, so it's like there's very different niches on those. That's interesting.
I'm always so curious as to why people are like, what is it about Twitter that pulls you? I'm not a Twitter user, to be totally, I've never been a Twitter user. It's not for me. But that being said, it's obviously a very popular platform globally. So what is it that pulls you to Twitter? Is it news-based? Is it like industry stuff? Like what?
Yeah, I think it's like the niches for me, I think, and we'll get into this. I think a big part of our learnings of getting so deep in TikTok over the past 2 years are how important niches are and subcommunities are within these kind of larger spheres of social media platforms. And I think Twitter, just as like, a tech enthusiast, someone who spent most of their lives in that space, I think Twitter just has like a lot of those kinds of like people, kind of like VCs, Elon Musk, like fintech kind of stuff. That type of content, like I'm a little bit ashamed to admit it, but it does appeal to me.
I think it appeals to a lot of people. I don't think that I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. It's just it's very interesting to me. Everyone seems to have a very unique use for Twitter. So
yeah, I mean, the product sucks. Like it's such a bad. They could do so much more with it. It's like so disappointing, and I mean, I think it stems from monetization. Like no one can monetize anything on there. Their ads suck. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Text is a really, really interesting medium. I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
Of course not. No.
So I hope there will be more innovations there, either with new platforms, new text platforms, or with Twitter just getting better. Because I think we're still at some of the first innings for text-based social networks.
Yeah, you might be right there, actually. It sort of felt like for a while, I think before TikTok came about, it felt like we were very stagnant in the social media space, right? And now it's just everything is flipped on its head. I mean, I talk about this all the time, but this recommendation media stuff is a trip. I mean, it makes me, and you might have an interesting perspective here, but some of the things that sort of float through my head on this are like, if I'm a brand, right? So a lot of our clients are brands. on the brand side of our business versus the creator side. So, and I think about a lot of our brand clients, it takes an awful lot of time and energy and money to develop a channel on a social media platform. And if we're shifting to a recommendation engine, I wonder, like, what do you think it's still worthwhile for them to go out and invest in that, or should they just go a paid and creator strategy?
I think it depends on the brand. That's a cop-out answer, but of course it does. I think brands that do well, I think there are really good examples of brands out there that have done well with their own generated content, but it's a much more difficult strategy. I think the chances of success are much lower, I think, than if you go with a creator-based strategy. But also the upside, I think, is potentially higher if you do it like super well, like these brands like Duolingo on TikTok, and Chipotle, I think, has done really well across a bunch of channels. So we could go into many case studies. But yeah, it's like, if you're gonna do that as a brand, I think you need to be prepared to like put a big investment in it, versus like creator, which I think you can kind of do it's a little easier to experiment, run a few experiments, get quick results. Creating your own branded content is a massive investment, and it's going to take a lot of time to see results quickly. You can't do like quick iterative experiments, I think.
Yeah, that's probably right. And I know, I know you guys spend a lot of time looking at trends on these platforms. I mean, what would you say the life cycle is of the average TikTok trend?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So we'll typically see anywhere from like 2 weeks to like 2 months. Is like the life cycle for a trend that's doing really, really well, like near the top of our rankings. We'll see it growing in the first few days. It will grow at least 50% per day, from like, let's say a few hundred videos to 10,000 videos at least. And then the ones that are doing really well will continue that pattern until they hit 1 million videos.
Got you. And is 1 million videos kind of is that the threshold for being a viral trend?
We actually define virality on growth less so than absolute numbers.
Gotcha.
You'll see, like, I'll give an example. Like, there's actually hundreds and hundreds of sounds out there that are over 1 million videos. And some of those are like, I don't think a majority of people would classify them as like a TikTok trend, like, Journey, Don't Stop Believing. That's just like a massive song. A lot of people make videos, and use that song as it's used in like movies and TV shows and everywhere. And like, is there a trend around that? Not really. But have like people use that sound over the past like 2 years in a bunch of different videos, and they're different types of content. Yes.
That makes sense. Yes, of course,
so
there's got to be a time element to virality.
Yes, exactly. It's about time. It's about concentration. I mean, when does a trend really start resonating with you as a consumer of the application? It's when you like see it over and over and over, and then you go to dinner and you talk to your friends about it, and you're like, oh, have you guys seen this like TikTok trend that like is doing, and like everyone's seen it like in that week. Right. And that's when we really see the numbers on TikTok, the video counts that we all, pour over every day start translating to cultural moments, right? On off-platform conversions or streams or whatever metric you're trying to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I listened to I believe it was a podcast on the New York Times had done on the Daily, perhaps. Anyway, this journalist was talking about there's sort of, when you have a really good meal or a really good bite of something, there's something that they call like mouthfeel, right? Like the mouthfeel of something. And what she was equating these like TikTok, these audio memes to it's like a brain feel, right? There's something in your brain that's just triggered by these very random, like people talking in a certain way, or, a beat sort of dropping at a certain point, that they just connect, and it's immediate. It's like you just crave more and more of it. It's like a sugar hit, for your body, to your brain. Those endorphins just go nuts, right? So, I mean, you think about that, it's like, of course, if a brand wants to take advantage of TikTok, they're going to go for that brain feel, right? And then they're going to hope that they're going to pop onto Trendpop. They're going to look at some things and figure out what's working and what's not. But I mean, how would you guide a brand in terms of audio? Would you say, hey, license a song, do this, or would you make that, would you have them make a sound? Would you have them partner with creators to make a sound? Because I know what we do, but I would be interested to know what you think based on, growth and virality that you've seen and measured in the past, year and a half.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess to start answering that question, I would zoom out a bit.
It was a loaded question, wasn't it?
We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, I have an answer, but it'll be long-winded.
Sure.
So I guess we first need to think about, what makes like content viral? Like what is the secret sauce to make like a trend, right? That's the $1 million question.
Sure.
And then, once you have a good idea of how to attack that, then you can start thinking about like, oh, what sound to pick and what content to pick, what creators to work with. So the way we kind of did a breakdown of this on a blog post with our friend Brendan Gann, who's chief creative officer. I'm going to butcher his title, but he works at Mechanism and social agency. He's been doing this work for a lot of time. Highly recommend checking out his Twitter, and he has TikTok that's very active on these topics. But what we did is we basically analyzed like thousands and thousands of trends that we found in our database. We track hundreds of millions of sounds in Trendpop, and we have a database the size 2 billion videos. So we have like way too much data that we would ever look at. And probably most of those data points no one would care about, but we looked at the very top ones, right? The ones that are growing the fastest, the most notable, like 1,000 growing sounds. And we kind of narrowed it down to a few patterns, very generic patterns that we tried to observe. So none of these are going to be like super like none of these are a silver bullet. Basically, every brand always wants to know like, oh yeah, like tell me exactly what to do, and it's like, no, you have to do some hard work. You have to do some experimentation. There's no free lunch, right? But we can start seeing patterns across these trends, and I'll go over a few of them for what we found. So the first is that a trend should be simple. And what I mean by that is when if you're trying to get a lot of people to like post a video about a thing, right? Like to get a lot of creators to organically post content about this, to get those video counts up, to increase the virality of the trend. People have to be able to do it.
Right.
It's like kind of like a simple point when you think about it, but it makes a lot of intuitive sense. So for instance, riding a skateboard around, like drinking cranberry juice, like anyone can go to a store, buy a thing of cranberry juice and like ride a skate. Well, not everyone, but like it's like pretty easy to recreate.
The CEO of Ocean Spray was able to do it. So
yeah, right? There you go. Versus like a really complicated like choreographed dance that like only professional dancers can do, which can generate its own like type of awareness and a lot of views in a lot of cases, but it doesn't generate the type of trend that makes like any random person go and grab their camera and try to recreate it, right?
That's virality, but that's not virality with involvement, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it even before TikTok, right? The ice bucket challenge. Like it's anyone can do these things. It's simple. It's easy to recreate. The second factor that's interesting to talk about is universal. So this is, we also call it like relatability, which is if you're truly trying to create like a global, massive trend, then to that you want to reach as wide of an audience as possible, then a wide audience has to relate to it. Right. And often we see these come out in like very basic, like human emotions that everyone can relate to. Like, If you're just out on a sunny day and you're like feeling happy and like smiling, like that's the kind of like cranberry juice
Totally.
on a skateboard one. We see a lot of trends about like it's in the Gen Z demographic about like relationships. Like, oh, when he does this, when she does this, right? And that's like super relatable as a teenager. It's like all you're thinking about is your crushes and who's dating
Sure.
what, whatever, right? And so on and so on. And the interesting part here is that the larger of an audience you're trying to relate to, the bigger the trend could be, and will generate the highest numbers. But if you're not trying to go after like a massive audience, you're just trying to really hit like a niche really, really well. You just need to relate to a smaller audience. So the numbers that you'll do are maybe lower in an absolute sense, but you might be more targeted, hitting the type of audience that you care about. If you're trying to reach an audience that really, really loves anime,
Right.
and you reference anime character that like all of them know really well. Sure, that won't be like relatable to a massive audience. You're not going to get to like 1 million videos probably, but maybe you'll do really, really well if you're trying to drive brand awareness for a brand that does anime merch, right? So kind of counterexamples to this no, yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I mean, you have to. It's art and science. It's always art and science, right? And this is very much a creative art. So you need that inspiration, and it can fall flat, right?
Yeah.
If you do it incorrectly, and that does not feel good for anyone. So
yeah.
it's a little bit. You're putting yourself out there, and I think it's a little risky. It feels a little risky to brands to jump into the soup quickly, right? Which is why I was asking about the life cycle of trends, because the reality is like we see some brands able to like figure it out and jump in really fast and go to it, whereas other brands just wait, and they can never really get there.
Yeah.
I think CPG brands are notoriously slower on a lot of that sort of stuff, but then you have like QSR, the Jack in the Box, the Taco Bell, the Chipotle's, and they're right there.
Yep.
Right. And it's a little bit of a difference of an audience as well, right? But it is interesting. You're right. There is no secret sauce.
Yeah.
I wish there was. If there was a secret sauce, if I ever figure out the secret sauce, we won't be talking on this podcast from my office here. We will be doing a podcast from like my own private island, right?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, and it's constantly changing too. I mean, the game for attention is zero sum. Like
exactly. That's a
like
great way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, and we are. I mean, we're in the attention economy, right? That's how we vote. It's like you vote almost less with your. It ultimately all comes down to dollars and how you vote with your dollars, but you vote with your attention and your eyeballs. And there are a lot of platforms, and this is just social media that's vying for your attention. This isn't Netflix, this isn't Hulu, any of those other. This isn't Roblox. Like, it's a small amount, and we spend a lot of time on it. So.
Yep. But I did want to loop back to your initial point. So just getting back to kind of more your initial question, like, okay, like. I'm a brand, like give me some practical tips, right?
Yep.
So I think the easiest way to get started on TikTok, if you don't know the platform super well, is just to understand it and latch on to existing trends that are already happening. It is much easier to find and I don't want to say exploit.
No, but you can jump on the bandwagon. You can jump on the bandwagon. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You can participate in those trends.
Participate. Yeah, that's better. That's a better way to put it. But yeah, it's much easier to participate virality than create your own virality, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's one thing. That's a common misstep we see with brands coming to the platform, saying, "Oh yeah, we'll like create our own trend." You mentioned like creating like a song and stuff like that. Like that can. It's kind of like creating your content. Like the payoff there could be massive, but it's really hard to do. And it's much lower chance of success. And you might have a better hit rate just kind of latching onto something that is already working and already has demonstrated success. Now, of course, no free lunch, that comes with its own risks. You'll be seen as like a copycat as a brand. And there's a lot of pitfalls there.
Sure.
To watch out for. But that's my like general recommendations. Just, take the top 10, 20 trends, look through them, figure out which one of them can be adapted to your brand, your content, and try it out. Yeah. And I think the other kind of general piece of feedback I give on TikTok is the platform is so fast moving, so authentic, so raw, and the cost of creating content is actually much, much lower than other platforms. The cost of creating content that could do pretty well is like much, much lower. So like take advantage of that and create a lot of content. Like if you are a social media manager as a brand on TikTok, I would say instead of spending, a week, 2 weeks per post, like perfecting every little thing, sending it to a designer, creating a perfect script or whatever, just like take a list of like 10, 20 trends and just pump stuff out very quickly. And
well, you get better at it anyway, right? You're better, you're faster, you're like more involved in the platform. So it makes sense. I think that's why a lot of brands have hired what they're calling like a chief TikTok officer, right?
Yeah.
Or they're hiring personalities to come through and run those accounts for them, because you identify those trends a lot quicker. You have someone who sold, and you have a face behind it, which makes a lot of sense. You have a better connection to the brand. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 practical tips if you're trying to get off the ground on TikTok.
Yeah, that's great. And I think a lot of people need that. Now here's my question. Where do they find the trends, right? Because if you're a brand, you're going to go, like when I go to the TikTok like business page effectively, or whatever that page is that they list all the trends, I see a lot of things on there that I don't necessarily believe are like the top trends. Do you know what I mean? It feels a little bit sponsored.
Yeah. No, this is the TikTok Business Creative Center. Okay. Yeah. Definitely. Like this is the one that like doesn't have numbers on it, and it's kind of like
they're
generic.
Just like, oh, it's Call of Duty today, and it's like, how much is Call of Duty spending with you?
Yeah, and they have this like graph with like no axes.
Yeah, and there's
you're like, oh,
where you're like,
I
can't even read this. There are no numbers on this. What am I looking at? This is someone just took paint and drew a line. Yeah.
yeah. So that's what it feels like. Yeah, I mean, I think it's impossible for TikTok to. I mean, if you think about the business unit behind that, building the tools there, what's their number one goal? Is to drive revenue, drive more brand sales. So that's their goal. So they're not necessarily looking to like authentically give you the best view of what's happening on the platform. They're looking to get you to spend money. And so maybe they're a little more biased to like types of trends that brands would be more likely to spend money on and things like that. But yeah, I mean, this is a big reason why a lot of our users use Trendpop, right? We give you a much, much more in-depth view of every single trend. We attach it to real numbers. We give that like unfiltered view of like the top 10, top 20 sounds for any given week, day, month, at any time period that you want, to just get to like the real thing. And even in certain cases, like we work with a lot of record labels. In certain cases, they'll tell us that we have data, and they have direct relationships with TikTok, and they'll tell us, oh, you guys have data that like we aren't able to get directly from TikTok. We have like a TikTok account executive, and our like, company has like a formal business, arrangement with TikTok, yet they're not giving us data because there's, they have different incentives, right?
Yeah.
We work with a lot of like music companies, and, a big problem is tracking UGC sounds on TikTok. So like creators take songs and they speed them up, they slow them down, they remix them, they mash them up with other songs. And it's like a kind of like a copyright content ID kind of problem, right? Sure. And there's like, that's a very complicated problem with a lot of like incentives for, TikTok and the copyright owners that want like different things. So that's kind of an interesting space where we found that we've been able to find more than TikTok even gives you in its own tools.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder how long they're going to be happy that you're saying that.
Well, I mean, this is all of the data that we collect.
Yeah.
Is like
it all comes
data.
from the API, right? Yeah, exactly. You guys have API access, correct?
So there's some stuff that we get from the API, but there's also some stuff we just collect from the public web, right? Just as, anyone can go open a web browser and, type in tiktok.com and, go and see how many the latest videos of a trend. We have systems that can do that.
Gotcha.
And yeah, that's how we kind of collect so much data. So you can think about it as like, instead of hiring a operations manager or intern or whatever to like go and like fetch these numbers for you and keep on top of it, we're software that just does that for you automatically.
Yeah, that's nice. I know one of the things that we really enjoy for Adobe is just Adobe's account growth.
Yeah.
So that's always a fun one. And we were able to track also, I think there were 2 videos that we did for them with creators that ended up being the highest performing videos the company had ever had.
Oh, wow.
Which was really exciting. And so we were able to showcase that through some of the Trendpop analytics, as well as just, we could actually just look at it and see. But it was nice to kind of show the growth and how those 2 viral videos had helped their TikTok account and their YouTube Shorts accounts grow. So
absolutely. Yeah.
And are you seeing these trends on TikTok? Are they going over to YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels with like the same like veracity, or are you seeing just totally separate trends happening on those platforms?
We have not yet done enough work, I think, to track the spread of trends from TikTok to other platforms yet. We're just kind of getting into YouTube Shorts. We're starting to collect a lot of data there. We have like close to 1 billion videos there. And now we're starting to do some of the work that kind of correlates those 2 platforms and just like start to crunch a lot of that data. But I mean, we know just from, the business world that there is a lot of interplay between those 2. One of the big ways that we drive revenue on the creator side of our business, Collab, the company that acquired us, that we're now working closely with, the creator side of our business, is a lot of helping short form video creators understand when their work has been plagiarized on other platforms like YouTube and helping them monetize that.
And by plagiarize, you mean when they're literally taking that video, downloading it from TikTok, and then throwing it into like a rap video on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll have plenty of YouTube videos, long form videos, sometimes shorts, like just taking that as just like, oh yeah, this is this TikTok trend. And like, here it is on YouTube, right? And you'll just have like random people do that, and then they turn on monetization. They start earning ad money from it. That money should go to the creator. So that's it's kind of complicated too. It's like you have like a long form video, 10-minute video, and you have a piece of content that's like 5 or 10 seconds in that video. So you have to kind of, you have to figure out like, how many creators are in this video? How long is is their content figured? What's the split properly to like, get the ad money? So there's a lot of like interesting problems that arise in the interplay of this like short form and long form world that we're going to see a lot more of.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. I hadn't really thought too much about that until you brought it up, but yeah, I could absolutely see that being a big problem for creators and for YouTube, for everyone, really.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then you splice in there the copyright with music if it's the Cranberries doing something, if it's
that adds a whole nother dimension. And YouTube faced this problem in 2006. So like their content ID system is like world class because they were forced to solve it in a really strong way. And TikTok is not there yet. Like they're gonna take
I don't think
while.
we would expect. Yeah, we wouldn't expect them to be there yet, right? That'd be a pretty egregious demand, I think, on a platform, even for as quickly as they've grown. It's like they're probably barely keeping things together over there with all the growth that they're seeing. So
yeah, absolutely.
I certainly understand that. Well, what do you think is going to come about in 2023? What's your plan? Like, what's your vision or your estimation in terms of what is going to happen on TikTok, Shorts, Reels? Like, where do you see short form video going?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll give a few different perspectives on this. I'll give the perspective that we have at Trendpop and kind of what we're going to work on as a business and our vision for the next year. And then I'll give just like generally. So, I think what we're really excited about at Trendpop is the continued like exceptional growth of just the creator brand, like advertising revenues that are flowing into the system. The, iOS 14 update, like earlier this year, plus with, a general trend of companies getting better about like privacy and targeting is making the advertising world, it's turning the advertising world on its head. And a lot of the revenues that went straight to like mobile targeted advertising are now kind of entering the creator space.
That's right.
And what's really exciting for us is the ability to scale out that advertising money, not just to like these high tier creators and these like big stars like Mr. Beast and whatever that
Mm-hmm.
they have their own management teams that like are doing a fine job like connecting them with brands, and there's not much to add there, but
Sure.
really to scale it out to like the middle class of creators, right?
Hmm.
The ones that are maybe they have full-time jobs, or maybe they're making some revenue on YouTube, but their revenue on TikTok is not as good, so they want to like embellish that. And to do that effectively, you need technology, both on the brand side,
Sure.
because like,
Well, the way you're talking about it, creators and brands are both businesses, right?
yeah, absolutely. And brands can't, you can't spend like, all day pouring through creators of these small magnitudes, because the return on your time for like negotiating with them and all the things you need to do to make a deal happen is like, it only makes sense if the creator is big and you're going to get a big return from the video and all the things you do. So you need this like element of scale is really where I think technology can fit in really well. And we've seen this a lot with a lot of the platforms themselves, trying to bring like the creator marketplaces that they have and other startups. So we're really excited about that space. And I think the perspective that we're bringing that's unique is that we're really, really focused on understanding virality. That is our core competency as a company, and and we can use that core competency, I think, to drive advantages for brands that other marketplaces are not going to be aware of. Right? We know when content is going to be viral before it goes viral. Right? So we're really, really good at predicting the smaller creators that are not big yet that you should work with. Right? Because in like a few months' time, they will be massive, right? So those are the kind of advantages that we look for when we build tooling like this. Or I'll give you another example. Looking for content that's already doing really, really well, and then figuring out how to license that for our brands, right? So it's not necessarily like you're paying for the content. You're just going out and finding the gems, and then going and licensing that and using that to drive much, much higher media performance.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And how would brands want to do, I guess that's kind of like the humor, if they're using humor, funny cat video style stuff. If you go back to the early days of YouTube, but if a fitness creator, let's use for example, creates a viral sort of video of them doing funny stuff in the gym, how does a fitness brand then license, like when they license that, how do they use that in their own advertising to basically up the performance of any sort of paid media?
Yeah. It's a really fascinating idea, and one we've been investigating deeply. So there's certain verticals where it works really, really well. I'll give you an example. Music. When you have a record label that's trying to push a record, and they just want the music to be heard, and TikTok's a audio based platform, so the content isn't actually that important. It's like, oh, whatever gets the music heard, right? It's just important to understand what's the type of content that's going to do well, and how do we continue to boost that, right? And then you can figure out the conversion to make that a strong play for their advertising spend, figuring out how to like link it to Spotify, and figuring out how to like get the pre-saves going. But honestly, if you just create a viral trend with a sound, even regardless of what the content is, and you do well enough, like you're going to see outsized returns on that for the next 10 years, just from the like streaming revenue alone. So that's what all the record labels are trying to do.
That makes sense from a music standpoint. Okay.
Yeah. Now you go on to different types of content. So another one that works really well is TV film. So you'll see, Euphoria, for instance, had a big moment that we were tracking last year. And you'll see a bunch of fans just create like Euphoria content, right? Because that's just what they do, right? Maybe they'll like splice some clips and they'll edit some stuff. Maybe they'll they'll create like animation videos, or they'll draw something, or they'll recreate scenes or something like that, right?
Sure.
So all of those things is perfectly aligned with the content. And there's a demonstrated there's demonstrated organic performance of that content, which is really, really powerful, because you're basically doing the A/B testing for your ad creative out in the wild, or like people have done it for you, right? You're just picking the winners and you're saying, okay,
Sure.
I'm just going to repurpose that, right? And so we've seen really, really powerful like early results in that field as well. Now, as you get more into like CPG and like, DTC brands, it's a little tougher, right? And it also requires like a shift in mindset too, because it's not the classic mindset at all. Like the classic mindset is, oh, let's figure out a way to advertise this product, and then let's give a creator a brief and tell them what to do, right? Yeah. Which work like that is one way to do it. But if you can figure out how to find the content that you can repurpose already, which is much harder, you have to go digging, right?
Yeah. Well, in a product-based economy, it's like they're always updating and new and trying to get you to buy the newest, latest thing, which means it's much harder to go back even for something that was a year, last year. It could be outdated. So
yeah, exactly. It doesn't work in all cases. A good example where it doesn't work in music as well is like a new release. Like a record label wants to push a new release. No one's using it. Fine. So like that's that. So, a lot of our customers, we tell them, okay, don't use this strategy like for this. Like it doesn't work for all cases. Do an Instagram like campaign for this, put some ads on Facebook. But like when it's more about staying on top of your community and figuring out when is the right time, when you have an opportunity, a spending opportunity arises, and being able to take advantage of that opportunity.
Totally.
I'll give one last example of a brand that did this really well recently. Chipotle. There was the corn meme.
Yes, the corn kid.
Yeah, corn kid meme. So, they were like on top of it. They knew when it was happening, and they mobilized immediately. And I think they had a campaign that was like massive. They got massive return on investment on that without creating any concepts themselves. I don't even know if they created that much content. They probably just like went and licensed some stuff. They had him
going through the Chipotle like line, right? In some way, I don't remember exactly how it went down, but because Chipotle has corn as an option for one of their like fillings, right?
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. A great example of a brand, taking advantage of an organic moment that they did not create, but they found, and they knew it was relevant to their business, and they knew it was a good opportunity to spend. And they also do like their own campaigns that have done really, really well, where they bring their own ideas to the table. So it's not like this is the only strategy you can pursue, but it's a really exciting one, I think, in this new age that yields really good return on investment, because it doesn't cost money to create an organic trend. Like you just have to find it.
Yeah, exactly. You have to find it, and you have to figure out the right way to position your brand. And I think that's the hard part. It's like, how do we as a brand participate? But, brands do spend quite a bit of money on market research to figure out who their identity is. I mean, people used to name them even, right? Who is the target audience. And so, first, I think that's why a lot of like smaller brands work. Like Chipotle is only trying to serve you burritos, right? They're not trying to serve you burritos and shampoo and Cheez-Its and like toilet paper, right? So you don't have to be all things to all people. And when you've got that more niche sort of view, then it becomes easier ultimately to create that. So
absolutely.
Great. Well, this was a really interesting conversation. I feel like I learned a lot. So Yoav, I appreciate you joining us today, and I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do next year. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. This was really fun. Great. And looking forward to seeing the podcast out in the wild. Absolutely. All right. Take care.